Okay, I have been asked to talk a little bit about the knots that are required to be used when you're backpacking, and honestly, it mostly comes down to the bear bagging, where you're going to do most of your tying, if any at all. Most any knots you might use on your shelter setup system, it's going to happen the first time you use it. You'll probably have that already set up before you leave. So what do you need to actually bear bag? Well, you're going to need a rock bag of some kind, and a rope, and of course a food bag, which I don't have here right now, but I will here in a second. And that's going to be kind of a personal preference, but there is some techniques depending upon what you decide to use, and I'll go over those too. How much rope do you need? Honestly, I'll start with 50. You probably don't need that much, but over time you may take 5 feet of that and use it for a shoelace. You may take another 5 feet and use it for another shoelace as a replacement when they break. You don't need anything super thick. Matter of fact, even some kind of zinget type line will work just fine. You're not going to be pulling up anything more than about 15 pounds is a pretty heavy food bag. But the friction over the branch, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail here in a minute, that friction adds a strength requirement to your string, to your line. So this particular line I got like through REI. It's actually made up for bear bagging. It's a little bit thicker than what you might want to use for a tent, but it's not that thick, but it has like a 300-pound strength on it. So it's pretty good, and it worked for everything I needed to use it for. So, all right, let's see. Let's get started. All right, so this particular line, like I said, there's 50 feet of it, and it's been wrapped in what I call in a figure 8. And the reason why is because if you've ever taken rope, okay, and kind of done one of these numbers, around the middle of your thumb all the way down to your wrist, right? You do this, down to your elbow and then up here, and then so you got this nice little bundle, and it's like this. You tie around it. Guess what? When you go to throw, it's gonna be so tangled. Every night you're untangling your bear rope. Well, you're not going to want to use your bear rope if you got to untangle it every night. Well, what's really cool, and maybe I'll be able to do a video here at the end, is if you take this rope when you're done with it, okay, and you do one of these numbers with it, a figure 8, okay, it will never or hardly ever knot up on you, okay? Matter of fact, you can, and how this is done is it's set up now where I put my rock bag on this end, and literally, watch this down there, as I throw it, it should just unwind, just naturally unwind. See that? It's just unwinding. That rope is running through the air, okay, and it's just unwinding. And I step on my little beaner down here so it doesn't go flying through the air, and it will just unwind as it goes. So it's pretty neat. So it's one of those techniques, and I showed that to a lot of people. Every time I came across somebody untangling their bear rope, I would show them that technique. And I had run some people in the end that were just like, oh, or not in the end, but a month later, and they were like, oh my gosh, thank you for showing me that trick with doing the figure 8, because I never had problems with my line getting tangled like it had been. All right, so let me see if I can maneuver around here. I don't have any rocks around the house. I live in Florida, right? So I've got some seashells that my grandkids had painted here, hanging around hanging around the house, and we're going to pretend that these are rocks. So this rock bag I made out of some surplus home wrap. It's not the Tyvek kind, it's a cheaper kind. You can see that it, we started getting holes in it, and I used to use my Gorilla tape here, you know, some duct tape to patch it up. I mean, that's why you carry it with you on the trail, right? But you know, you don't have to make something like that like I did. That was one of my get ready for the trail projects when it was winter of 15 before I went out in March of 16. I just, you know, had to have something to do, so I made myself a rock bag that honestly, an old sock works just fine. You know, you put rocks in there. Sand maybe, I don't know. You know, you might know with some extra weight, but you know, for rocks you could use something like that. Okay, probably the most well. Let's see. So on the other end of the rope, okay, you get your carabiner. Okay, and I just, you know, I used a bow line here to make that loop, but that was way overkill. And a bow line won't slip. But you know what? Let's just say instead of using a bow line, okay, all you've got to do is take the end of the rope, make a loop, and just bring it back in on itself. I'm trying to remember now what this is called, okay? But that's all you got to do, okay? And then you can connect your carabiner to it and you're good to go. Okay, so just all you got to do is just a little kind of a tie-over loop. I can't, there's probably a proper name for it, but it's escaping me right now. Okay? All right, so that's that end, and I'll just leave that like that. All right, so what do you do at this end? All right, I'm going to show you. Let me put some paper down here to contrast this so you can see it a little bit better. I'll be right back. Okay, what I'm about to show you, it's called a Larks Head, and it's probably one of the most important knots that you could actually learn to use for camping and backpacking. I first learned about it at Philmont Scout Reservation in New Mexico, because there they required us to hang all of our packs every night in these great big bags, and we used the Larks Head to secure these bags to be able to haul the packs up on the ropes. So you put your weight in your bag, and if I haven't talked about it yet, I'll talk about the importance of knowing how much weight to use, because underestimating your weight is one of the biggest mistakes people make, and the reason their rock bags get caught up in trees. Okay, oh, sorry about that, I hit the tripod. All right, so the Larks Head, okay? The Larks Head is a very, very easy knot to make. You're just going to make a big loop and give yourself plenty of extra tail down here, okay? And so you make yourself a loop, okay? And then you can either bring it this way or you can bring it this way. It doesn't really matter. I personally like to bring it towards my thumb, so I bring it towards my thumb and grab it, okay? And now it's almost like you've got this little butterfly, and just grab it and then turn it, okay? So essentially, you've made yourself a bite, if you will, that as you can put weight on it, it will bear down and tighten itself, okay? The Larks Head. And look, it just falls apart, okay? So once again, you make yourself a nice loop, you bring it down, grab a hold, and then just push the two ends together like two butterfly wings. You're just going to push them together, and now you've got this little loop. And you take your rock bag or whatever bag you want, and all you got to do is just push it in. You don't have to you don't have to try to tie it or close it. All right, pull it, just tighten it up there, okay, and it holds it. All right, nice and firm. All right, you get done throwing it. You go to take your rock bag off. You don't have to work on these granny knots and stuff like that. You got to try and undo, or some taut line that you really cranked it down. All you got to do is you just pull on that. It lifts off, and it will fall apart if I do it the right way. But it's just there. There's nothing there that's going to cause you this frustration where you get this knot that just won't let go. What if I do this? And I'm going to do that, okay? I am going to just absolutely pull this as hard as I can. Okay, I have cranked this thing down, okay? There it goes. just like that, and she's done. Okay, dump your rocks out, take the rock bag back to your pack. Okay, so very, very, very easy. Now, so let's see, once you get ready to hang your bag, you know, a lot of people with their bear bags, they're going to use something waterproof. I use this the Sea Summit, wrote my name on it, Big Bird, because there were more than one person out there that were using these. And at one point in time, you're like, if I get up in the morning and my bag's gone, I'm going to be bummed. Blueberry last year, I met her down at just outside of the Smokies, I think the first time. We'd heard that somebody actually had stole her bear bag, and her pot and cook stove were up in it. So she was pretty bummed about that. So you know what, I said, you know, I'm gonna one night I had three people the same bag, put my name on it. All right, but you know how this thing works is you just roll this thing up. Okay, you roll a couple of times, and it's got its own little loop there, if you will. Okay, and all you gotta do is just fasten it and hoist it up. Well, okay, let's say you don't have one of these, or in the case of somebody that I knew, theirs broke, and so now they're kind of stuck where they don't really have the ability to close it like that, because you don't, you know, you're going to get rain in it. Or let's say you're going out camping for the weekend, you don't want to spend that kind of money. I mean, you know, Z-Pack bear bags, $50 for their setup. You know, what if you got something like this? It's got a drawstring on it. Okay, so you get your drawstring. Okay, well, you could hang it upside down. This is not a waterproof bag, so if it rains, the bag's going to get wet and may soak some stuff in, and maybe some stuff won't fall out of here. But what if you don't have this little loop on the bottom, and all you got is something like this where you can put your food in it? Well, you know, you hang it like this. Okay, water's going to get in it. What are you going to do? Well, guess what? You take your carabiner off, all right, and so now instead of using your carabiner, all right, and let's say I'll use my carabiner end here. Okay, I got my carabiner end. I'm just going to take my carabiner off. Okay, then all you do is just go down the rope a little ways. Okay, all right. So here's the end. Just kind of come down here. Act as if that's the tail. All right. Make myself my loop. Fold it over. Grab it. Twist it sideways. Put my Larks Head around that bag, and boom, now I can hang my bag. Okay, a little bit less chance for water to get in there. Let's say I'm not quite satisfied. I really, really don't want water to get in there. Okay, well, I could take this bag, okay, fold it over, okay, like that. All right, now I take my, just for ease, I'll just use this other end. I take my rope, loop it, take it down, move it sideways, make my little loop here. Okay. Wrap that over that end where it's knotted over. And boom. Okay. But wait a minute, your buddy forgot to bring his bear rope. Dang. And not only that, but you know, he's new at backpacking. It's the first time he's been out. He's only been out, you know, not even once before in his life, and all he's got is his grocery store bag. But you know, you really want to put the food up. Well, wow, that's not, how's that going to work? You know, if I try and put that on a carabiner, that's going to fill up with water. That's going to really be bad. Okay, we do the same thing. Just tied it down real tight. Okay, you've still got the same bag with the other guy's food in it. Your food, you know, that's your food. What about his food? Well, same thing. You just make yourself your loop, fold it over, bring them together, turn it sideways, take your buddy's food bag, put it through there, tighten it down, and now on the same rope, you got both ears. What if there's 4 of you? You just keep going, you know, and you can get everybody's food bag up on one rope. Okay. All right, so that's some techniques of using that Larks Head, and once again, it lets loose really easily. I think on the day 2 on the trail, there was a girl that had kind of an open bag like that where it wouldn't seal, and I showed her about just, you know, folding it over like this, and using that Larks Head, and she was like extremely grateful for that, and I would assume used it for a lot of the trail. So, all right, let me pause this for a second here and clean up this, and let's talk a little bit about the actual process of hanging. All right. Okay, so you've got methods out there that are very popular. They have names: the PCT method, the Alternate Pct Method. There's videos out there on how to do them. I only probably use what I would call a variation of the Alternate Pct Method, and it was my own variation in that I did not put a stick in the line. And if you go watch those, you'll understand what I mean. But the idea on it is you throw your rope over, you put your bear bag on it, you run the bear bag up all the way to the top of the branch till it touches, and then in that line, okay, underneath it, you're going to put a stick as high as you can, okay, and well, I take that back. I think you throw your rope over, okay, and you're going to run, okay. All right, so you've thrown your carabiner, you've got your carabiner down on the ground, and you're going to hook your food bag to it, okay? And then you're going to, I'm sorry about that, you're going to take and you're going to run your rope into your carabiner like that, okay? That makes sense? And then you're going to run it all the way up to the top so it bangs itself against the bottom of the branch. And then you're going to reach up as high as you can, okay, on that rope, and you're going to put yourself a branch in your line, okay? All right? And you're going to get that up as high as you can. And then the idea is then you then let the rope go, and the weight of the bag pulls itself back down, okay, until this stick hits your carabiner, and then it won't go anywhere anymore, okay? And hopefully that's at least 10 feet up off the ground, and then you just let the rest of your rope just dangle. It just dangles, okay? So if a bear comes up, you know, there's no rope wrapped around the tree to try and gnaw to make your bear bag drop. All he's got is this rope that's just dangling there, just hanging freely, and he's got to be smart enough to grab his teeth or claws and pull that rope, and then pull it down and run that bear bag up to the top and send his cubs up to get it. Or he has to be smart enough to know how to take the stick out and then let go, so that then the bear bag comes falling back down. So I think that's kind of just a brief description of the PCT method, but there's actually some really good videos out there on it. The other thing is, and this is why I use the alternate a lot, because if you have that style down in, you know, on the AT, you're just gonna go ahead and throw the rope over the tree, run it up to you know, at least 10 feet off the ground, and hopefully no more than about 4 feet from the branch, okay, and 4 feet away from the trunk, because the bear can climb up and reach out that far. So it's got to be 4 feet away from everything. And then you're just going to run maybe your rope to a different tree and tie it off. Okay, well, unfortunately, those beautiful kind of tree setups are a little more far and few between, which what you're going to have more likely than anything is you're going to have these trees that are kind of like this, okay? All right, and this might be a little sapling, you know. What if this is a little sapling that's only you know, that big around the diameter, okay? a cub can climb that. It makes it really easy for squirrels to get up and stuff like that. And if you throw your bear rope up over this thing, through that, through that little Y right there, well, when you pull it up, where's your bag going to be? It's going to be leaning against the trunk. Well, okay, the mice and the squirrels are going to have a heyday with that. And bear's not going to stop a bear from running up there. So you can't have your bear bag leaning against a tree. So how do you pull it away? Well, if you do the same thing with that PCT method, if you've thrown your bag up there, and then you run your pull line, through your carabiner like that. All right. What you're going to do then is, and once again, and with the PCT method, you're going to put a brake stick, because you don't want to pull so hard that this ends up being up against the tree trunk up here. Well, you know what? I didn't find that putting a stick in there was necessary, and it worked just fine for almost all the applications I did not to put a stick in there. So what you end up doing is you end up, I would run, so I run my food bag up, pull it until it's up. Oh, I don't know, maybe 6 feet, or it could be 4, but usually about 6 feet from the top of that Y, and then you walk your line over, and when you do that, it then swings out, and you tie it over to a different tree, okay? And so you end up getting this. So even though this tree is not a real great, maybe like I said, it's a taller sapling, but it's high enough. You can suspend it out, and there's times where it might not be that, you maybe can barely get your 10 feet off the ground, but it's between trees, and if you plant it right, there might be a little gully right here that actually will give you a better distance from the ground, and so then your bag hangs kind of down here, suspended in the air, and that's kind of the alternate PCT method. Well, the alternate PCT method puts a stop stick in here, so the harder you pull down here, it doesn't keep moving this way. But I ended up usually just running it up where I wanted it first, and then just swinging it out where I need it, versus coming way over here, right, and starting to pull and expecting this thing then to run up sideways. I just run it up straight and then pull it out. Play with it, experiment with it. But anyway, those are kind of a couple of methods, and then down here, this is where you can use a standard taut line that you use to tie a tent stake down. But you know what? If you've got 50 feet of rope, my experience was I had so much rope that to try and do a taut line, it was a real pain in the butt. So I would just wrap it around the tree, okay? Wrap it around the tree. I might have a whole arm load of rope at the time, okay? I might have, all this extra stuff. Then now that I pulled it all up, I got all this extra rope, and I go around the trunk, okay? Kind of wrap it around maybe once or twice, and then maybe grab it and wrap it back on itself. Okay, and go the other way, and then wrap it around and come back the other way again. And eventually you can just take some of this and just stick it under, okay, under between the rope and the tree branch, and there's enough friction there, it doesn't go anywhere. And the next morning you just kind of grab the mess, pull it out. Tying a firm knot, okay, especially if you're backpacking in the wintertime, is a really bad idea in case it rains that night and freezes. So like if you're doing a taut line, okay, a taut line is just simply you put a couple of bites in a rope, okay, and you come back on itself on the other side. All right, that's a taut line. It's a standard tent line type of a knot. Okay, I think I did it wrong. So much easier to do this when you're on it. You actually have tension on it. Okay. Come on, rope. You're embarrassing me. All right. It's easier to do when you got some tension on it. Okay, and this knot is designed not to slip. Okay, well now if it snows and it rains and that knot is iced up, oh my gosh, is that a mess to try and undo when you're trying to break camp. So what you do, instead of doing this bite like that, okay, most people will make sure they have a little bit extra line here, okay, to do this with. All right, so you do your 2 bites. 1, 2. And then with this extra, instead of going through, you bite the rope, if you will, put a bite in it, and then pull just that loop through. Okay? All right. It's going to work. It's going to work the same. Okay. Get that thing tight. Okay, it's going to work the same. But then in the morning when everything's all frozen, all you got to do is grab this thing and pull it real hard and break the ice off of it, and it lets loose. You do that with a lot of knots, where that final thing that cinches it down. You put a reverse loop in it, and it'll still create the bite to hold the rope, but then you just pull it through. Okay, let's talk a bit here about kind of the do's and don'ts, lessons learned, how much weight you need. Okay, so you got 2 branches here. All right. Let's say there's another branch over here. Okay, it's a thinner branch, little tidier branch. Okay. All right. If you're going to throw your rope over this branch, you're going to need more weight than you need if you throw it over this branch. Well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, does it? Well, think about it. Look at this cross section sideways. So this branch is maybe that diameter, and that branch is that diameter. Okay. How much friction is there that we have to worry about? Let me find my end of my rope here, wherever it went. There we go. Okay, so how much friction? You pulling that rope, there you're going to have that much to deal with. Okay, over here, look at that, half as much. So which one has more friction? Well, this one has more friction. Okay, and what happens is, if you have enough weight on the rope, you throw it up, it'll go over the branch, and then it'll continue down to the ground. If it doesn't, okay, and there's times where you have the biggest rock you've got, but you have a really big branch you're kind of throwing it over, that's okay. But then you can take the rope and you can kind of send a whip, okay, and the whip will travel up and over here, and it'll loosen itself up so there's not much friction, and maybe it may drop 3 or 4 feet. If you do it again, it'll drop a little bit more, and you kind of work it down. Well, what happens is if you don't have enough weight, and as you're trying to whip it, it's just not going anywhere. Well, now you don't have any choice but to pull it back. Well, as you start pulling it back, that's when you risk having things happen. Like, so one of my rules is never use a bare rope that's got a knot in it. And you might see people that have taken different kinds of ropes and they've tied them together. Those ropes that's not going to work over time, okay? Because if you get a tree that's got a lot of gnarly bark on it, okay, that knot, well, the rope's is going to dig into it, okay, but so might that knot. Or if you have had a bunch of tangles and you've got just one of these knots that have just bared down really hard, and it's because you left it there for so long, there's no way you're going to get that undone. That is eventually going to get caught on some bark. More importantly, if you're throwing it over one of these, okay, and this is where you have to be really careful. Pay attention to your V. If that thing is super tight, okay, and with bark in it that looks like it could catch your rope and grab it really easily, it's going to. Then if you don't have enough weight that you throw through it, you're really in trouble, because then you only have an option of going one direction or the other, okay? And I've seen so many people try and pull their rock bag up this way because they can't get to it. It didn't go far enough down, so they can't grab it and pull the clean loop through, okay? Because now the rock bag is way up here at the top. So they start pulling and it gets caught in there, and pretty soon you see that they've cut the rope off down here, and you see rock bags all over the place. And that's why, is because most likely this was either too much of a V, so it acted as a wedge, and when you got the rope in there and pulling on it, it just grabs it and it's not going anywhere, okay? Or they tried to pull the rock bag up and now it's stuck, or there was a knot in the rope, okay, because of other mistakes they'd made other mistakes they'd made in the past. So the weight that you put in your rock bag is going to be dependent upon the amount of friction over the surface, okay? Smaller branch, less weight, actually easier to probably do than these great big branches. A lot of times these great big branches where you end up with all these extra rock bags hanging all over them. Most likely you're going to find trees that are in the V, and you're going to be really careful what that V looks like. It's almost better to have a tree where it comes up, and it may have a branch that goes up more like this, and then another branch that kind of goes more like this. Excuse me. So you have a little bit more of an opening here. All right, that'll keep your rope from getting stuck. Now, technique-wise, as far as throwing, what seemed to work best for me, and what I would teach other people, all right, is let's pretend this is the rock bag right now, okay? I would get it swinging like this and then throw it underhand, okay, with the idea that as you're sitting here looking at this tree, you're looking up at this tree branch, okay, and you want to have yourself back away from it. So at the point of release, which is your finger going just, as you're doing this, and as you come up to let go, you're going to want to almost like you're going to I want to put my hand over top of the branch, okay? And as you do that and let go, you want to be at about 45 degrees of flight as this thing heads up, okay? So because if it heads up at least at about a 45 degree, it'll get this nice arch. Okay, let's pretend like this is now a branch that you're throwing over. So as you release, you want this thing to come up and have this lazy angle of flight and come over, and then start back down on the other side. And for some reason, swinging an underhand swing, when you release it, it gives it this natural tendency to kind of go up, hit the max, the kind of the apex of its flight, and then it turns and heads back down again. Okay, for some reason, whenever I tried to take it and just throw it, it seems to have more of a flat trajectory and then just dies off. But for some reason, when you do underhand, it gets this kind of a lofty up, and it kind of floats, and then it turns over the branch, and it comes back down again. And you can get to the point where literally you can walk up, grab some rope, some rocks, throw it in, do your Larks Head, step back, 1, 2, 3, and launch this thing, okay? And it floats up, goes right over the branch, hits, you go over, you break your Larks Head off, you dump your rocks out, and the other guy's sitting there with his jaw open, going, holy cow, I can't believe you just did that fast. Well, you know what? You can get to the point where you can do it that fast once you get your technique down. All right. What are some things that I've seen some people do that I thought were really stupid? I saw a guy from Tasmania use the rock that he tied like a parcel package where you cross it and turn it and cross it. So and I've had to do that too, because sometimes the rocks are too big for the rock bag, so you tie it up like a little Christmas package. Well, I still do the underhand with those, and sometimes they come out. Well, he took it like a baseball, and he chucked it, and it went up and hit the tree, flew back, and hit him right in the forehead. split his head open, split his skin open. We did a field repair, and the next day he had to hitchhike into town and get seen at urgent care. One of the things that I would never do is, as I saw a guy, he had taken his boot off, and he had tied his bear rope to his boot, and he was trying to throw his boot over a branch to be able to get the rope over it. And I'm thinking, have you not seen all the bear bags that are like hanging all over the Appalachian Trail at this point? And here he's throwing his boot, and we're in the middle of nowhere. So I highly recommend you don't throw your boot. Okay. All right. So you know, in quick summary, things I think you need to remember: the weight the weight you put in the bag is a relationship with the size of the branch. The bigger the branch, the more weight you need. Okay. The figure 8, when you get done, is a way to take care of your rope. You do that, you won't have any problems with tangling. The Larks Head, I think, is one of the most useful, quick little loop type cinches, I'll call it. Maybe not a knot, but a cinch, but that you can use, and it allows you to hang multiple type bear bags on your line if you need to. You don't have to always use something, you know, a $50 bag. You know, even a couple of you know, grocery store bags, kind of cinched down to keep them waterproof, and then a Lark's Head on it will keep the water out of it. So you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money if you just want to go out for the weekend and backpack. So, all right, and of course you can use a sock for a rock bag, or you can just use a bigger rock and tie it up like a parcel package, and I call it lob it up. Okay, don't throw rocks, lob them. All right, that's my my summary of bear bagging, knots, rope care, my alternate PCT method that I use that a lot, actually, because of the nature of the trees. I hung my bear rope on an angle, if you will, pulling it away from the trees. So, all right, everybody, you have a great day. Bye.